Welcome back, viewers. Dave Epstein from the Post Pollock firm. Today, I'm going to answer the question of what you do if you get scammed. You've been scammed. How could I have stopped this? What do I do? Let's talk about it. First thing I can think of is the online type of scam. Different types of online scams. The first one I thought of, which was today, because today I got notice from Ticketmaster that their data was breached and my data was somehow involved. What a joyous feeling that is. So what do? Well, it gets tricky, but the first thing you do, aside from the legal, and it is partially legal, is protect yourself. Get a credit report. Call the credit card companies. What they usually get is your credit card information. Call the credit card companies. Contact the Federal Trade Commission. They are a federal agency that governs consumer practices. There are things you can do as well, depending on your state. There are state laws. New Jersey was the first one to put one in. It's the New Jersey Data Protection Act. And it was designed, it mandates that companies store your data in a certain way. There are all sorts of requirements, but here's the catch. It specifically does not allow you to have a private right to sue under that. The Attorney General is the party who has to go after them, the New Jersey Attorney General. Whether they will or not is a big if. Now, there are other ways to go after that company. One of them is to hire a lawyer. Some of these lawyers will do class action suits to sue on a different theory, negligence. They were negligent on how they stored things. They didn't follow the industry accepted standards for keeping your data because somebody got in and got your stuff, and they're not supposed to be able to do that. So you could consult a lawyer. But most importantly, first and foremost, get a credit report. If you need to, cancel your cards and get out of there. The other types of scams that we're all used to are, for example, you pay for something and you don't get it. First, the question is, how do I avoid that? Well, first of all, don't put your personal information in or pay unless you've done a little something to check out the website. You know, when you do a Google search, all these hits come up. And you think, oh, these must be sometimes they'll even say the official site, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but probably is. But double check. Look at the URL, www.something.com. First of all, it doesn't end in .com. Already, it's a little, you got to really have your eyes open. But secondly, look at it. See if there are ratings on Google. There are ways to find out if you're on the right site. Once that happens, let's say you didn't do that, or you tried and you still got caught. Some of the same steps you're going to take with a data breach are the same. You get a credit report. If you use the credit card, contact the credit card company immediately. They are, in many cases, obliged to reverse that charge. So the sooner you get in touch with them, now the problem is sometimes you don't find out you got ripped off for days or weeks, but as soon as you do, contact your credit card company and at least note a challenge. Even if they won't reverse it, note a challenge or say it was a scam, and they'll start investigating it. Well, whether they'll do something or not, who knows? If you can locate or identify the person who scammed you, then what you have to do is contact a lawyer and/or contact your state consumer protection agency. In New Jersey, we have a Consumer Fraud Act. It's very sweeping, very comprehensive. We have a consumer protection agency that is supposed to help you out, and sometimes they do. But you should go to them first. Then talk to a lawyer. Because they may be able, if they can identify the person who ripped you off and they can find them and get assets from them, they can sue them. And they can sue them for punitive damages and all sorts of other things. I'll talk about that in a little bit, about the different remedies under state and federal laws, mainly state. But those are the things you really want to do. When it comes to these scams, you also probably should right away contact law enforcement. Whether they will do anything, whether they can do anything, depends on what the scam was and who was involved. When it comes to the data breach, where a company notifies you they had a data breach, they're already in touch with the FBI, and they're probably trying to find out who did it too. If it's sophisticated enough to get into, for example, Ticketmaster, which I found out today somebody can, then probably the FBI is going to have a hard time tracking them down, because these scam artists, know what's coming down the pike and they prepare for that. But sometimes not. Sometimes they can electronically trace, so get in touch with the FBI. You can contact the lawyer. The lawyer will probably say, let's wait and see what law enforcement does, but it can't hurt. Can't hurt. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment if this video is helping you. Love to hear your comments. Thanks. The next area where I see scams happening very frequently, even perpetrated upon lawyers, sometimes successfully, are email scams. Different ways, the emails that mimic an email address of somebody you know or should know, and it turns out it's not them. There are the emails that, there's the desperate plea from a friend, a distant friend who's got your email somehow that says, I'm stuck in Europe, I can't get home, can you send me a few $100s? Then there's the email that a distant relative has died and I have an $8 million inheritance. I'm shocked how often that one works. You would be shocked too. It's scary. So you got to watch out, especially the elderly who are they don't have frames of reference, maybe alone, isolated. You want to make sure they're protected too, but that happens a lot. So what do you do to avoid these scams? Well, first and foremost, if you don't know the email address, or it's an email address that says it's somebody's name, look at the actual address. You'll have the RE or who it's from, but then you look at the address. If it's some bizarre name, it's probably not that person. Look to see where it came from. And use your thinking, put your thinking cap on. Is this person or whoever's sending me this, would this be likely to come to me? If it has something to click open, do not click open. If you do, and it says, okay, here we need this, we need that, don't give them anything. Don't put your personal information in an email, especially if you are not 100% sure you know who you are talking to. You may think you do, but you're not. So you have to really watch out for that. And what do you do if that happens and you somehow get stuck in one of these scams? Once again, call law enforcement. Call the FBI or the local police. Usually better to start with your local police. At the very least, you get a police report put in and somebody gets the process started. They'll probably say, we don't know how we would track this person. A lot of local police departments have computer crimes people, though, and that includes email scams. So you may get somewhere. You may get some traction, or maybe they're already on a case. Maybe people in the area got hit. You got to get into that right away. Contact a lawyer. They may be able to guide you through it. Get a credit report just to make sure if you put personal information in, keep an eye on it. If you gave credit cards, check with the credit card companies, see what they say. They'll probably say cancel it, we'll send you a new card. And keep in mind, whether it's an online scam, an email scam, and the two are usually connected, there are services out there, legitimate services, that are designed, if, for example, your identity was stolen as a result of one of these scams, whether it's a data breach or whether it's somebody got your credit card information, they called you, you got a text saying, oh, you owe the IRS money. It's a scam. IRS doesn't come to you that way. There are agencies that are in business to protect your identity and restore it, and they walk you through step by step. Not just, you can hire lawyers for these things, but you may or may not get anywhere depending on where they're located and how sophisticated the scam is. But there are agencies, and you can look them up, Google identity theft protection or anything along those lines. What do I do if my identity has been stolen? Get online and find somebody. Some of them have pretty reasonable rates, and they can work out something that protects you. They make a little money, but it's worth your money because somebody could be out using your social security number, taking out credit cards. And I know from family members and friends who have suffered this horror, you don't want to have to do that. But if you do, you want to have somebody who knows how to walk you through professionally. The other types of scams we see are the good old-fashioned person-to-person. And, as long as I live, as long as there's humans around, there are going to be people out to rip you off. There's tons of them. And you find them right in your front door. Right? For example, there's the classic door-to-door scam where somebody is selling something like a home improvement or a service. What have I had come to my house? Extermination, chimney sweeps, and you need a new soffit or whatever they call that thing on the top of your chimney. Landscapers. Oh, you have wood rot over there. We can fix it. Okay, maybe they're legitimate. Well, the scam artists, they have a little technique, a few techniques. One thing they'll do is they'll tell you, I just was talking to your neighbor Joe, and Joe's, I'm working with your neighbor. Oh, while I was here, I saw you have this or this. And one guy came up, used my neighbor's name, said, you have, I can see evidence of this infestation. So if I fall, and now he gains my trust. What you should not do is let them gain your trust. If you didn't ask him to come to your house, if he says there's something wrong with your house, go find somebody, hire them, and get a second opinion. That will scare them off in 2 seconds. But let's say I fell for it. The person goes, and what they do then is they do some work. Usually it's like, if it's saying landscaping, they throw a bag of mulch down and they get a bill for $500. What do I do? Oh my God, he just handed me a bill for $500. You didn't say what this was going to cost or what you would do. And then again, you didn't ask. Ask them. If you're actually considering it, ask them. How much is this going to cost? What are you actually going to do? And see if they'll put it in writing. What do you do, though, if all those things you could do to prevent it, you haven't, or somehow it was a bad day for you to fall for it? Well, the first thing you do is, you can do right on the spot, is refuse to pay them and call the police. Now, calling the police may or may not do anything. It doesn't always arise to the level of criminal fraud. That's very difficult to prove. It might even be more difficult to prove civil fraud in the classic sense, because they technically didn't misrepresent anything if they didn't talk about the price or they didn't talk about what they were going to do. They just said, I'll do this, or you have this problem. If you can prove that whatever they said was wrong is not wrong, or that they didn't do what they say they were going to do, then that's straight up fraud. But the police will at least take a statement, get some identification from the people, take down a license plate, so you know who was at your house if you have to take the next step. If you've paid them the money and you find out, oh God, I was scammed, you have lots of resources and recourse depending on the state you're in. In New Jersey, I can tell you, New York, I believe, is the same way. We have incredibly strong consumer protection laws. The New Jersey Consumer Fraud Act, which it doesn't just protect you from fraud, somebody lies to you or conceals something, but it's where they have regulations on what you have to do, and they fail to follow them. And one of them is home improvements. And many states have this. So you go to a lawyer, they can go after them. You also contact Consumer Affairs. You pretty much have to do that if you're going before you can sue them. They often won't proceed. But you can sue them for violations of the act. And that can be, for example, with any kind of home improvement. If it could be landscaping, it could be, I think exterminators are included, carpentry, you name it, any home improvement. A contractor has to be registered under New Jersey law. It's the Contractors Registration Act. And any home improvement contract worth over $500 has to be in writing, and it has to meet certain strict standards as to what's in there. I guarantee you, if the work that was done was over $500 and this type of fly-by-night operation, they didn't put anything in writing. So you prove your case, what happens then? You hire a lawyer, think, oh God, I can't afford a lawyer. Many consumer affairs lawyers, consumer protection lawyers will work off a fee arrangement where they say, well, we'll recover whatever we recover, because if you prevail, you win your attorney's fees and you win treble damages. That means triple, 3 times. So if you were out $500, you get your attorney's fees paid for plus $1,500 in damages. And mind you, there are cases in New Jersey that have said, and I know other states say the same thing, consumer affairs and consumer protection is so important that even if the recovery is minor, if a lot of legal fees had to be incurred to get you there, the key here is enforcing the act and making sure those who violate it are brought to justice. So you could have $15,000 in attorney's fees. The court can still award them, plus your treble damages. So that's a very powerful piece of protection. Now, other scams that you can run into. And I could go on for hours about the different scams, but for example, bait and switch advertising. You want to go see a car. You look in the newspaper. Well, newspaper, who looks at that anymore? But you're online hunting for cars. You say, oh, this dealership has this and this. Looking for used cars. I'm looking for new cars. And you go to the dealer, and it's the car they advertised isn't there. You may have recourse right there. Your best recourse, by the way, is turn around and go, because these people are not telling you the truth. Now, there's a lot of that, unfortunately, in the car business. I don't want to malign the whole industry, but there are, especially in the used car area, wholesaler, where they can't even get the car on a lot. It's for cars they can't even get on the lot as a resale for a dealer. All sorts of shenanigans go on. Cars that have been declared total and haven't gotten a salvage title, they call it. They'll sell it to you as though, and then you try to insure it, and you find out you can't because the VIN number shows it's totaled, and they will not insure it, and they won't register it. Or you get some slick talking salesperson who tells you they're going to do one thing, and it turns out it's not in the contract, and you signed, or you're financing. Now, there are a lot of things that can happen in those transactions. What do you do? First of all, if there's anything that they promised you that is critical to you, aside from the price, make sure when you get that contract, you read it. The sale contract. They're going to hand you a lot of sheets, disclosure forms, odometer statements, all sorts of things. But the sale contract is what key. What are they selling you? The other forms are important too, and you should try to read them. I grant you, sometimes they're so confusing, lawyers can't understand them. But try and look for the things that are important to you. If you're not sure about something, there's nothing stopping you from going to a lawyer and pay him a couple $100 to look at that thing, because a car is an expensive item to buy, and have him look at it. Dealers will say, oh, you can't do that. Yes, you can. You afraid that car is going to go? Maybe, but probably not. But read the contract. When you're doing financing, they're required to disclose accurately what the financing terms are, the total in interest, the total amount you'll have to pay. Make sure it's in there. Before you sign, before you put a dime down, make sure. Now, despite all your best efforts, you get scammed, you get robbed, they rip you off. Well, Consumer Fraud Act applies to that too. And there are all sorts of provisions specifically directed at both used and new car sales that will give you the protection you need. You're probably going to need a lawyer, but listen, there are people who go into small claims court on different consumer transactions. I gave the example of cars. This could be a computer you just bought, could be anything, an appliance, a motorcycle, a bicycle, you name it. And you can go into court on your own, and if you prevail, you still get treble damages. And I will say this, in the small claims court, or mid claims, it's called special civil part here, but where it's claims up to $15,000, the judges are attuned to consumers representing themselves, so you probably could. I'd always still remind you or recommend that you hire a lawyer, but it's worth your while. So you can pursue that. You can also contact Consumer Affairs. Again, if you're going to file a suit, you have to contact them and give them the option of pursuing the claim. They almost never do unless it's a major problem that's being found widespread, which often it is. You can also contact the police if it's right then and there, although they are probably not going to go after somebody for something that violates the Consumer Fraud Act unless it rises to the level of criminal fraud, which is extremely hard to prosecute. So they usually don't file charges for that. But the key to all these things is to be alert to avoid it. But if you don't, be alert in protecting yourself both as to your information, your identity, your money, and to pursue your remedies as quickly as possible after it happens. The longer you wait, all different things happen. Evidence seems to disappear. The salesperson who you met disappears. But that's what you have to do. Be vigilant. Now, vigilant means, obviously, not sleeping on your rights. And just keep in mind, you have rights when you get scammed. I've given you some of the different rights that are out there, but there are more. There are also more types of scams. And you should never just lay back and take it. You should fight back. and protect yourself and assert your rights. I hope this video was helpful. I look forward to seeing you next time. Dave Epstein signing off. Make sure that you hit like, subscribe, and leave any comment you want. See you next time.